Hello, this is Jolinda Stevens with Unitarian Universalist Voices for Justice, and I am here with Jill Mangliman, who is the Executive Director of Got Green and on the steering committee of the Alliance for Jobs and Clean Energy. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for your time. Got Green promotes an equitable green economy to fight poverty and climate change. And much of its leadership is young and comes from the communities most impacted by climate change. Among our basic principles as a religion is the respect for the interdependent web of all life. You use across the country and here are hard at work to address the climate crisis and to do so with attention to justice issues involved. The members of UU Voices are going to be making a decision in just a couple of weeks about what our agenda is for the coming year. Last year, our top items that we lobbied for were the governor's the governor's carbon tax initiative act, and the carbon tax initiative. We've got people out collecting signatures and have for several months, and also safety and transportation of carbon products, as well as the minimum wage. So we do these videos to educate ourselves about the issues so that we can make good decisions. So the Alliance has very recently proposed another initiative, this initiative to the people, that is a carbon control initiative. Will you explain it to us, please?
Yes. So the Alliance for Clean Energy and Jobs is a broad coalition statewide. There are representatives from labor, faith, health groups, business, environmental organizations, and also organizations that serve communities of color and low-income people around the state. We've been meeting since, my gosh, almost a year now to try to come together around an initiative that really does, do two things: cut carbon, and also creates benefits for the communities who are most impacted. Right now, we're agreeing around a set of principles that there would be some kind of cap where for some people who know, the number 350 is like where like the cap that we've been oh, what happened to you? Saying that we're over the limit of like the carbon that the world needs, and so we need to like find a way to reduce our carbon to get back to that safety zone. I think we're somewhere around like 380 parts per million. It's really ridiculous number, and so really need to make some drastic cuts to the pollution that's happening in our state. So one of the things is to create a cap. The governor actually proposed such a cap by his rule, executive order, thanks to those kids from Plant for the Planet, those awesome kids who put that lawsuit together. And so other things additionally that we agree upon is to create reinvestments for communities who are impacted, including workers, and finding ways for that, what to use that revenue for that's related to reducing pollution. And also, lastly, having some strong oversight and accountability. So the possibility of like creating an environmental justice oversight board to ensure that this program is working, and that it's connecting with the communities who are most impacted in the industries, and really shepherding a just transition for our state. And I guess that's in the nutshell where we're at, and moving towards like a cap and invest model.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now comes the hard question.
Yes.
The hard question is, we have essentially three proposals to control carbon. One is the clean air rule that the governor initiated, and which there'll be hearings on for quite a while. And the second is the carbon tax initiative, and they're going to take a full number of signatures to Olympia this week, I believe. And then the third would be the Alliance's proposed initiative, which is still in the development stage.
Yes.
So, what would be your approach politically to these three initiatives? Are they complementary? Are they competitive? What do you see?
Yes, I mean, it's interesting because a year ago, I hadn't really heard anything about climate policies, and suddenly there's many, many options. I mean, I've been especially just thinking about it too, is just like how they're also different and also trying to do the same thing. I mean, we have critiques of them as well. Definitely with the governor's cap, it's really ambitious and awesome that he did that. I think what we need to see is how does he enforce that, and that's what's happening in the rulemaking. It's fine to have a cap. I do think people are in agreement. Our state needs to, like, you know, just make sure that there is a cap. And so. And then as far as with the initiative I-732, well, a carbon tax is also another way to reduce carbon, the carbon pollution in the air. The critique has been around two things, actually. One, around the revenue neutral part of it, in that it doesn't generate new revenues and reinvestments to mitigate the cost burdens to communities who will take the brunt of that. And so thinking about low-income people, especially communities of color who are disproportionately low-income, like this does not like go back, that revenue is not going to go back and support those communities in this transition period, when industries will be, like once they start paying taxes on it, they will pass that cost burden onto those communities. And while they offer the working families rebate, which is, an option, it doesn't reach enough people. There are limitations to that program, and also thinking about like the amount of monies required for communities to, like make the transition themselves to a green economy, or to, away from pollution or using fuels and fossil fuels, thinking about like what it costs for like solar panels, or like, that this kind of program doesn't create that transition, and it just replaces existing taxes, and so it doesn't generate the new revenue that we seriously need to lift our communities out of inequality and poverty. And so the other critique was that communities who are most impacted were not involved in the drafting of this policy, and so really it was it just came to show that, again, we were left out of the conversations. And so I think what the difference is, at the Alliance, we are our Communities of Color for Climate Justice coalition that was formed last July, with groups such as Community to Community Development, Got Green, Puget Sound Sage, One America, and Washington Can, El Centro de la Raza. There's a lot of us who came together last year to create climate justice principles to help guide policy. One being, like it has to create co-benefits for communities of color and low-income communities, both economically and environmental, and that it also does no harm, and also has strong accountability and basically cuts pollution. And those are the principles that we presented to the Alliance, and so far has been a guide for all of our broad coalitions to come together to try to figure out a policy that works. And so our role has been really to, move organizations and the coalition towards a racial justice lens in whatever policy that they're doing. So that's been a lot of the work. Yeah, and so that's where we're at right now. And hopefully, the policy that we come together on will reflect those values and principles.
Okay, and we'll be interviewing Ellicott
Oh,
from
good.
America specifically about what we should be looking for and fighting for in the rulemaking for the clean air rule. So I really appreciate your time, Jill. Thank you so much for this very complete and clear description of what's going on. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And would you like to hear at least like Got Green stance on, on some of these things besides? Sure. I mean, for Got Green, because we are an environmental justice organization, have been really speaking with other of our partners, including C2C and other groups like Rising Tide, members of Grassroots Global Justice, our national alliance, including Asian Pacific Environmental Network, who worked on the bill in California and have been really, pushing for no cap and trade or use of carbon markets. We see that for Got Green, especially in other environmental justice groups, that this type of mechanism it could potentially, especially offsetting communities in environmental justice communities who live in hotspots, and also create offsets, not just in low-income communities and communities of color, but also in the global South. We are very conscious of that and really have been advocating for no cap and trade.
All right. One more question.
Yes.
I have heard that offsets often don't work. Because the choices are abused. And so I was wondering what kinds of controls you're thinking of building into the offset part of it.
Well, we definitely are not supportive of offsets. I think it's a way for industries to, get more permits, but potentially creating pollutions in other forms. We're weary of programs such as the REDD. I hate acronyms, but it's something like Restoring the Environment, Deforestation, and Development, or something like that. Basically, it allows industries to create reductions in pollution by planting trees. However, that just means that they would be able to, buy land, like forestry lands, and, plant trees, but it doesn't take into account, the displacement that takes place or the cutting down of trees. Cutting down of trees are not counted, and so that really puts at risk, indigenous communities, rural folks, some of our old growth forests, places in the global South that have been untouched, and so we're really weary of offsets. Another example is, plantations. Often that's another thing that if they were to offset with agriculture as a way to reduce pollution, again, that involves the buying of land, taking of land by big agricultural companies or industries, and then, growing things that may be considered green, like, palm oil or some sort of byproduct that is green. However, again, it may cause more pollution in other forms or displacement. And so really weary about those kind of loopholes, really weary about the opportunity for people to get more permits to pollute and then sell that to other industries. Again, this idea of creating a carbon market defeats the point of reducing carbon, and we really want to transition to an economy that is, healthy for the planet, healthy for people, that is, moving into renewable energy, and I really do think that this is kind of this is really a false solution, and delays that progress that we want to like see. We really do want to see our workers be able to enter into green jobs, local green jobs, and by allowing industries to continue to find ways to continue to pollute, it doesn't make any sense. Especially with the risks and the abuse that may happen, and the impacts on EJ communities. I spent a lot of time with the communities in Richmond, California last year. They are living in a town where Chevron has a refinery, and knowing that if Washington and California were to enter into a trading program, that they would be impacted because Chevron would be able to buy more permits to pollute, versus reducing their pollution and transitioning to, you know, like a different type of facility. And so there's a lot. It doesn't just impact Washington State. It really does impact communities, not just, you know, like in California, but around the world as well, because this potentially can become a larger market or a larger scheme. And so we have to be very conscious of like the decisions that we make here in our state.
Okay. Thank you so much. Would you just briefly like to tell us about one upcoming project with Got Green? Because I know some of our folks actually volunteer with Got Green.
Oh yeah. So let's see. What is Got Green up to these days? Well, we are having a couple of events in November. On the, I believe, the November 9th, there's going to be a training or a forum to talk about these different climate policies. We're connecting with Rising Tide and Buy-in USA to really bring this dialogue to the community and talk about what are the different, you know, critiques and different policies that are on the table regarding climate change, reducing climate change. And then also having a town hall on the 12th that really talks about the connection between climate change and displacement and gentrification, not just like globally, but also locally, what's happening here in Seattle in the Northwest. And so those are two events that are coming up in November. They're open to the public. The link should be going up on our website soon, gotgreenseattle.org. And so, yeah, like really want to have this dialogue not just happen at coalition tables or in policy, you know, like meetings, but really bring this dialogue out in the community and have folks really, you know, talk about what's important to them, what are the things that are on the table, and what are some solutions that are coming from the community. I'm really excited, like really wanting to focus on solutions that are rooted in community, because it is localized actions, new ideas that is going to get us out of this economy and this climate crisis.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jolinda.
And I will send you a link when I get this posted.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye.